All right, today we're going to be redoing this 1973 military ammo crate that's made out of pine. It was stained, but the stain has yellowed over the years, so now it has a yellow-orange feel to it. Still has the original rope handle, original hardware, but I want to update the stain color mainly. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is sand off the stain. It takes a little effort, so I've got two tools, orbital and this Sonic Crafter thing. I don't think the orbital is going to get into these corners, so I'm going to use this to get into the corners. And then we've got 60 and 80. Then we've got 80 here. So I'll try to take the stain and varnish off. Now we're going to take off all the hardware. Okay, you can see we started to get sanded. We got some of this shiny stain off, you can see here. But remember, right here under the hinge, this is the color of the wood. So keep sanding. This kind of reddish area is like the deepest place where the stain went last time. So we got a little sanding to go. Most of this red will be gone, and it should be pretty much like this color. But I will say, when you get down to here, there is a dark edge there. And that dark edge isn't over here. So I think I'm going to do a little bit more sanding here. I think that looks a little bit unprofessional, like I didn't get it all. Because, you know, then there's no dark over here, right? And it's almost like we just left some right there. So get that, and then we'll have to use a different tool to get up at the edge. Looks like the orbital couldn't make it to there. The top is done except for these edges, which are a pain, because you gotta hold the sander at an angle. Go in there, but you don't want to. If you want to press too hard, or you'll actually leave a little downward mark on this part. Now, one more thing that we have to do at some point is these screws, these nails have had, 40 years of grime. So I poured a little bit of this CLR on the nails, and it became very easy to scrape them. Okay, now here's my water, just a tiny bit of water, and I'm going to see how as soon as it's wet, it has this orange feel to it. Well, I've decided I would like this to look more weathered and gray before we put the words across the front. And so I'm actually going to stain it with classic gray first, and then I'm actually going to sand just about all of it off, and then I'm going to stain it with weathered oak over the top of that. Okay, when you open your stain, make sure you stir it. Don't shake it. Shake it adds too many bubbles. And the actual color is kind of a solid that goes to the bottom and the sides. So make sure you use whatever you have, whatever you're stirring with, to scrape the bottom and sides. And I am not a brush stainer. I am a plastic glove rag stainer. I don't know what's better, but this is the way I do it. And for me, it works just fine. All right, feels like it's been, I don't know, half hour. It's pretty dry enough for me. I'm gonna use 80 sandpaper. We used 60 to get the shellac off, the hard stuff. I don't want to just sand it so it's smooth. I want to get the gray off. So I don't want to use anything that leaves marks, but I am going to use 80. I don't know what to say other than I feel like when you're sanding, a little bit of the art is involved with the sanding. Like, where do you want the gray? Now, when you start sanding, maybe like the areas where it soaked in the most is what is the last to go. But at the same time, if I just sand there a little bit longer, it goes away, right? So what I don't like is where it just looks dirty. Right there, I'm going to sand that off. Like, I don't like these spots where this looks dirty. So I'll sand that, but I do like this where it looked more weathered. And it's just going to be like, what do you like? That's the overall look of it. I feel like the orange that I didn't like is totally gone. Now, I will say the first time we did this, I put the letters on first before I did the gray. But then I ended up doing so much sanding that the letters went away and I had to redo them. So this is the point where we would do the letters. What I really wanted was I wanted these lines to stand out more, the grain of the wood. So I looked up different ways to make the grain stand out. And what I ended up going with is what we're using again, and that is I sanded it all down, and then when I restained it with this, with the weathered oak, I don't know why, but it all popped out. And then some of the gray is left over. Okay, so if you look online for military ammo box, you can see all kinds of examples of how this is laid out. And I mean, there's really no rhyme or reason. And there's 100 different ways, different sizes. So I guess just pick out the one that you like. Now, I wanted to make something that was relevant to the family. So my dad was stationed in Araxes, Greece in the military. Cafes is the Greek word for coffee, because I'm making like coffee tables, right? Now, what we're going to do to make the letters look like this is actually very simple. Stencils and a Sharpie. Now, you have to lay them out so that they're level. Got to use a ruler, figure out how to center them, and then make sure the lines. Now remember, we're going to sand after this, so you can draw your lines on pencil because they'll just sand right off. And when we sand, that's how we're going to get this old, washed kind of look. I like it. All right, something to do before you put the hinges back on. Take a golf tee or a toothpick and shove them into the holes. Break them off. Try to fill the holes up with wood. That way, when you go to screw the screws back in, there's there's more for the screw to bind onto, and it's tight again. Otherwise, it'll be loose because the hole's old and it was there. All right, the last stage is definitely polyurethane, and that gives it a shiny look. So I'm trying to rotate the table so you can see the glisten. See that? That side, I put some poly on. And this side is just wood as compared to this side, shiny. So you got to get a brush. I obviously use one of these and brush it on, and then you see how when you get close you can see some of the gray remains, right? That was kind of what I like there at the end. And you can see here how the grain really pops out with the other stain. If you really want to be a pro, you then sand it with a super high grit, like 220 sandpaper, and then you put it on again. And that makes it super smooth. That's it.